Yeah.
Mike, you are here again, man.
Yes.
Welcome to
Hello.
ERP Talks again.
Oh, thank you so much, Khaled.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
back.
really an honor, and you
Likewise.
we have the first episode with you, and now after 1 year, this episode also will be with you. We got a lot of comments, messages from people that love your episode, and it's the highest episode. People listen it a lot on Spotify, Apple Podcast. It's number one. It's ranking number one in every platform.
Awesome.
And I believe, if you remember last year, we mentioned that you're not only making a content, you're making a cool content that people love. Welcome to ERP Talks again, and welcome
Thank you.
to this Q&A. And I'm super excited that we will like do this episode with you again today.
Yeah, thank you so much. I have to say, likewise, it's an honor to be back, and I really appreciate you guys do such cool editing and stuff. We've kept in touch. It's just been really
Thank you.
cool. You're such a cool guy, and Omar too, and we are just onward and upward. I'm excited to be back.
Thank you. Thank you. So let's start this Q&A. And our first question for you is about
Yeah.
Boyum B1
All
UP.
right.
So,
It's my favorite topic.
yeah, we received the question. What is the most impactful customization you would recommend using the Boyum B1 usability package?
I think firstly, you like everybody who uses SAP Business One, if you've seen my content, you need the B1 usability package. I really don't think SAP Business One is complete without it. You're missing so many things. I would say that there's a couple things. Probably the biggest one that some people get the most use out of is the item placement tool,
Okay.
being able to edit your forms. I know SAP tried to copy it a little bit, super weak. The B1 Up item placement allows you to put your fields into the form in a way that really makes sense for the users. So if you want compliance, I always think if a new user looks at a form and it's just cluttered with fields that are useless, how do they know where to put any information? So I spend a lot of time thinking of what are the critical fields? Where do I want to place them? And then if I have custom fields, I can put those into the forms as if they were system forms, system fields.
Okay.
And this really eliminates, I hate that sidebar. It's useless, it's confusing, and it's just so much noise. So the item placement is the thing that if I do something with B1 Up, I always, always, always use it. It's subtle, and people that are maybe used to the sidebar will, maybe disagree a little bit. But if you ever tried to manage the sidebar or show only specific fields, it's impossible. With the item placement tool, you can do combo box drop downs dynamically. You can change colors of fields. You can move them from being buried in a tab to being up front. You can hide system fields easily. You can take UDFs from that sidebar and place them into a form as if they were natural system fields. There's tons and tons of other stuff, but that's probably the most impactful thing. And then I just a little bit more, I would say the second is dashboards. I think the HANA dashboards are relatively weak. I
Yeah. Agree.
I've used them a little bit, but with the B1 Up with the B1 Up dashboards, you can do almost anything. There's so much stuff you can do with them. So you can you can make something where somebody can step into their job, look at their screen, see a visual summary of their job, and they can double click and actually drill into that data or affect the data in different ways. And then so that'd be kind of number two. And then number three, the thing that people always need, which is very weak, is emailing out of SAP with a correct template. So you can send emails out of SAP with a template where you can say dear, and then you can say contact name. Please find attached your invoice. And then you can rename the file to a format that you want. And in addition to that, it also includes an account balance format that is actually a real data source. So you can
Okay.
send account balances, but you can also edit the account balances. I don't know if you ever tried to work with the customer statement stuff. The default SAP customer statements are very, very hard to use. So item placement tool and dashboards, and then specifically the account balance for emailing automatically, but any of the emailing through B1 Up is a huge improvement over the default SAP stuff.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. So I agree with you also, specifically on the dashboards. Unfortunately, the HANA dashboards, there's a lot of them outdated and they're not working. I don't know why SAP are not upgrading them or doing anything. But anyway, question number two: how can you make customers absolutely love you?
No, well, I think it's really important. It's not something I try. It's not something I'm like, hey, I'm gonna set out to do this. But I think it's something that is just it's something that it just naturally happens. And I think if you show a passion for what you're doing, you're gonna have people that are really aligned with you. And I think that's always been something that's been a strength of mine just naturally. And maybe like you said, being authentic is one of those things. But I think the biggest thing is being a real consultant, like listening to the scenarios that the customers are explaining to you and coming up, like really giving thought to the answers, like truly solving the issues that they're bringing up to you with a variety of tools and mixing those with system tools but business tools as well. So I hear what they're saying, I kind of interpret it like, what are they really asking, what are they trying to solve, and then I try to give it a lot of thought. And sometimes I can't even stop thinking. I can't even stop thinking about some scenario, like I really want to solve this. And I'm not thinking just like, oh, okay, system wise. Sometimes I have to ask them hard questions about like, do you really need to do this? Like, what if you thought through this process from a business standpoint more than it seems like you have. I mean, I'd say it in a nicer way than that. But really being like a full consultant, not just trying to solve things with system solutions. So if they ask me for something, maybe it's some process they're doing, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, you know what? If it doesn't make sense to me, and it doesn't make sense from my standpoint and my experience as a consultant from other businesses, being able to speak up in a useful way, hey, like, what if you approached it this way? What if you simplified this? Just to like break them out of that box. And they're like, you know what? So I think that I provide like, by providing that value, they start to trust you and they realize that, hey, you're going to give us good advice. You're going to give us something that is very valuable. When we ask you a question, you're going to really work with us to solve it. And sometimes if it is a systems question, I won't stop. I'll make sure that it definitely gets solved. So finding that solution, whether it's system solution, a process solution, a business solution, stepping back and really delivering that solution, making sure that whatever the issue was is solved, that really, I think, gets people like wanting to come back to you. And then the fact that I really care. Sometimes I feel like I care more about their system than they do. They don't think I care more about their business than they do, but um, I will bug if I see something that I'm just like, I've talked to you guys about this so many times, but what about this? Why do you keep doing this? And they're like, yeah, Mike, I know, but we have to keep doing it. And I'm like, well, what if you did this? Or what if you changed that? And it might sound annoying, but I feel like it's funny because it builds rapport, but it also really shows like I understand their business enough that I can really deliver something that will change their business and maybe change the way they think, but improve their business. So I think that brings people back to me and makes them love me, as the question says.
So, listening to people is important. When you listen to people, this is a big sign that you care. And as a consultant, you should listen. Yeah. And also, as you mentioned, the ownership. I believe the ownership that you make the customer feel like I'm a part of this company or I'm a part of this project.
Mhm.
It's not like I will sell you this and hey, see you soon, guys.
Yeah, ownership is a really good way to put it. Like I feel personally involved. That's
Mm,
a yeah, that's a really good way. Like it's not personal, but in a way, I guess it's personal, and they can feel that. I think, like you said before, it keeps resonating, the authenticity. Like I'm not just trying to sell them to walk away.
yeah.
I have a real problem causing issue. Like I want to see them improve. Like I really do, in I guess, a personal way. So yeah, that
Mm.
creates that authentic relationship.
Okay, so the next question, it's a question that always comes to my mind, and it's about how you deal with customers that
Mm.
have some employees resist the implementation of the new software.
A tough one. Um,
Yeah,
there's
I
there's always
know.
I think my biggest, like, if if you have, so there's a difference, there's kind of a difference between someone personally. I try to think they're not trying to personally attack me ever. So I just kind of forget about that this is like a personal thing. And I try to think of, why are they resisting? And there's
Right.
usually a few things, right? It's don't want to be reinventing their processes as they go. So they're happy, even if something that they're doing doesn't work that great, it's something that they're familiar with, right? So you get just that fear of change. So what I try to do is I try to include, like, really listen and include what they're saying or things that are critical to what they're doing, because they'll tell you, like, if it doesn't do this, then I won't, then it's going to make my life a lot harder, right? So
Yeah.
I like the people that are being the most obstinate, like the most stubborn. I try to really work with them and specifically deliver features that will help them through the transition. Like whether it's a report that looks at the data in a specific way, or a feature that automates something. I really try to prioritize that. And I think, like, if you get ownership people, project managers and stuff, they're not really listening to the users. I think you have to be the one that drives, like, hey, can I talk to an order desk person? Can I talk to a procurement person? And sometimes they don't know all the factors, but they'll tell you certain things that will make their job. Like, there are certain users that will step up and say, this is what we need. Maybe they're just like, maybe they're not the manager of the order desk or the manager of the warehouse, but they are a concerned user who's a good user, and they'll give you that feedback. And they're the ones that might be hesitating. But if I can demonstrate that I can cover those features, I find that usually I can turn people around. And that's actually my favorite thing to do, I think. Give them a dashboard. I'm thinking of a warehouse manager that, like, I've completely turned around, like, uses my B1 Up dashboard, loves it. Now the guy's asking, like, really good specific SAP Business One questions. Didn't want to work with any other departments initially, didn't want to get off of the system initially. But yeah, demonstrating that I'm going to add value and adding value, listening, providing tools for them to do their business. I find that's like, there's no way to really deny that. And don't take it personally.
Right.
Really try to empathize with why they would be resisting, and I just be cool. Like, I think there's no way. Like, I've only had a couple of people maybe, like, make it personal, where they just don't like me for no reason. But generally, it's not for that reason. It's a combination of fear, change, and just having to put in extra effort. So if you empathize with that, you can always get through it.
Okay, so don't take it personal.
Yeah.
I will not take it personal. I will try.
Do you have a situation right now where you're
So no, so I believe that sometimes people resist, as you mentioned, because the fear of a change. But
Mm,
sometimes people feel like they are not a part of this change. Like the decision maker took the decision and they didn't involve them, and they say, "Hey guys, tomorrow we will have a new tool that you will use." So people feel like, "Oh my god, there's nobody like involve me in this.
mhm,
Why? Why you didn't involve me in this?"
mhm,
So if I believe that also the companies and the decision makers in those companies should involve their team. They should
mhm,
involve their team and they should like show them that, hey guys, you are a part of this company and we are doing this transition. We need to work as a team on that. So I believe this is important because if they have the same vision like the decision maker, it will be easier. So yeah.
yeah, good managers will. I think that this is something that you can maybe dispute a little bit, but I think, like, a lot of female energy, like some female leaders, more so kind of bring people in to feel that way. I think maybe it's more of like a masculine energy thing, where you're like, we're just gonna go, and I don't care how you feel about it, right? Like, you have to have kind of like a middle ground, and that's why I was kind of saying, is like empathizing with people,
Mm,
and asking people, like when I'm there, the decision's already made, right? So I could just be like, "We're doing this whether you like it or not," you know. But that's too far on the one side.
Mm,
So, like you're saying, making them feel involved, and a good organization will already prep and include those parties in the scoping and the demos and the sales process, where they ask like, hey, Bob in order desk land, like what features do you want, right? So then
okay.
if that's a good customer where I'm already coming to the table where they're like, I'm excited, I've seen a great demo, like let's make this as good as we can be. But not a lot of the times, but some of the times, like you're saying, like they didn't include them. The
Mm,
management team just made the decision, and now it's like forced upon the people, and they don't have any of the agency. So yeah, I think, like you're saying, involving them in a way will help them to have some ownership, and then building things to help bridge that gap in terms of features and reports and functions will get them over the hump.
okay, so my next question for you is about add-ons.
Mm,
So SAP Business One add-ons. Do you
yeah.
recommend any specific add-ons for the e-commerce, for the CRM, for the like taxes?
Okay, so like what I've found is probably the best is the Shopify mixed with a company called Alluvia.
Mhm.
That's what we've used kind of the most lately. Using Shopify is just a really good platform, and then we use a company called Alluvia that integrates with it. It's not a cheap integration, and it's not a simple integration. It's not just a connector, but if you want something that you can kind of customize, tune, and have a lot of custom stuff, customization between your Shopify and how it interacts with SAP Business One, something like Alluvia, which is a middleware, they will really help to smooth out the process. It's not like, people say, oh, it's very simple. It is very simple, but there's a couple little details in payments and down payments and how you handle freight that you have to handle. But once you get it all working, then you can have a really cool connection to Shopify, and then to e-commerce. But I
Okay.
think Alluvia can do a lot of other things in that regard too. For CRM is a big topic lately, and I think the ones I've been seeing lately is like Salesforce. I used to think Salesforce was a very expensive implementation, and it might be more than I think, but it looked like licenses weren't that bad. Like I think SAP Business One's biggest weakness is CRM. I would say if we have one thing that we could do a lot better, it would be CRM. Just being able to capture emails coming in, do email lists, have automated follow ups, and I used to try to simulate that by doing a lot of customizations. I think it's just kind of difficult. So I don't actually know what the integration is, but the platforms I've seen the most are Salesforce, HubSpot, and then just lately I heard one called Pipedrive. And it seems like most of them have just middleware. It's a very simple integration. They're just pulling like a list of customers and items in stock out of SAP and then just putting back in, sometimes they'll put back in business partners and, like new customers, and they'll put in quotes and stuff. So I don't I don't have like they seem to be able to do their own integration, and they have like DI API. They have their own middleware software stuff. So I don't focus as much on that. I usually end up doing the mapping for it. So, but in terms of e-commerce, yeah, Luvia is the one I've had the most success with.
So, so anything for the warehouse management?
Oh, for warehouse management, I'm at a like nexus point. I think like I'm at a crossroads with my WMS. I've used the Boyum stuff. I've used Progimex WMS, and I've used Progimex Scan, and I'm starting to maybe look outside of those. I'm really a Progimex WMS features fan. I think Progimex WMS is very deep, but I think they have not optimized it. Sorry, WMS, but I'm just being transparent here, and not to insult them, but just to make them do better. I think that they haven't optimized things as well as they could for HANA. I feel like our SQL customers do better. I feel like HANA, in some cases, it's just not fast enough. And so lately I have been looking a little bit around for a new solution for the WMS stuff. In isolation, the Project WMS and the feature set is really robust. You can break down almost everything into like scripts, and you can get into the code of the app and all that stuff. But I think people want something simpler. So I've been looking for something like that. I just haven't found it. And it's like I've used Lisa, I have used like
There
what
is
yeah,
there is a new company called Logix. It's a German company. Logix.
Logics, how do you spell
It's
that?
Logix. We
G-
just signed a
Okay.
partnership with them.
Okay.
I don't know how they will do, but I got like 3 or 4 recommendations,
Good to know.
and the people mentioned that also those people were using Prodomix,
Yeah.
and the Logix come and replace Prodomix, and they are super happy with it. I
Okay.
don't know what we will do with them, but I believe maybe it's a good choice. Maybe you can like take a look about it. Maybe you'll love it.
Yeah,
I
no,
don't know.
that's a really good recommendation. I think like where the biggest thing, like if Project clean up its speed,
Mm,
um, especially on the HANA platform, I think they would do a lot better. And I think if they could somehow make it like a native app or like a web app that was faster. So I hope Logic's like the other one I was looking at was is Resolve. We've been doing some work with VistaView's Resolve package. So they have kind of like a web app view where you can put it on a tablet, you can put it on a phone. So I've been kind of looking at that too. I just want like I don't necessarily need like so many features. It just has to be fast and it has to be logical. And I think there's a gap there. And I think maybe I'll take a look at Logix for sure. I'm open to new ideas.
yeah.
I just, yeah, like I said, I wish Boyum would. I know they can't just change the code. I understand that it would throw a lot of people for a loop, but maybe just taking a lot of the good things from Project X WMS and just really, really focusing on speed and performance, because that's what keeps killing us is like the features are great, but when somebody scans and it's like scan 1, 2, 3, boop, scan 1, 2, 3. And we've done all the Wi-Fi optimizations. We've done all like it's not Wi-Fi. It's not the speed of the handheld thing. It's like I've looked at some of the code and it's just code on code on code, right? So anyway, not to whine about that too much, but I
Yeah.
think the other thing that lacks too is POS. Like there just needs to be a simpler point of sale. Like I almost wish SAP would do. I know they have CCO, customer checkout, but customer checkout doesn't work. Like we tried. We've
Yeah.
tried. It's just like they just don't care about North America. I don't know
Mm.
in for CCO.
So that takes me to the next question that we
Yeah.
received, and it's about what are the areas SAP Business One needs to improve the most?
Yeah. Okay. So, number one, CRM. I think like opportunities are okay if you are like an industrial seller of machinery or something where you have like big, I'm saying it's okay for them. If you're doing some sort of industrial opportunities, like you sell like a machine to a factory and you have a long, slow sales process, I think it can be okay for that. But the opportunities, they're not used by a lot of people. I think lately I've just given up on trying to convince people that I can compensate with customizations in regards to the CRM. I'm like I can put buttons to add activities. It's just awkward. So I think lately I have just embraced doing the integrations with one of those CRM platforms. Like the salespeople, I start to talk to them about customizations and they just don't care. Their eyes just glaze over. They want all the same stuff. They just want clean, fast applications on their phones and tablets. They just want to get a lead in, call the lead, do a quick little note, and then throw them like, recontact in 3 weeks, or put them on a list, an automatic email list. And then the automatic email list sends out promotional emails to them. And then, SAP is so good about like the history of the customer. So if they need the history, the sales history and all that, they go to SAP. But in terms of doing the harvesting of leads and doing the contacting of leads and doing the follow-ups with leads, I am now not recommending that people generally do that inside of SAP. I think you can find low-cost ways of integrating them that are really worth it. I think that's the biggest thing. And the second thing is just don't like it. Down payment. The down payment handling, I think, is tough. I think that's another thing that I would say that needs to be improved a lot. The down payments, I don't know how much you've probably worked with them before, but working with down payments, I have lots of solutions around them. And I think the down payment stuff makes it really difficult to work with. It doesn't go on like your ledger. It's not really clear where it is. There's not a lot of tools to like clear it. I have to use a hack workaround. Like I have to use an AR invoice service type to like trick it into turning it into a credit to give the money back. Like it just doesn't, it should be a sub ledger. It should be a sub ledger like liability, just like the actual accounts receivable in some way where you can easily affect it. So I think those probably off the top of my head, yeah, CRM is, but yeah, CRM is the biggest one.
So I believe the credit card. So there is you
Mm.
can't like pay with credit card
Mm.
in SAP Business One. You will need also iPayment, Boyum iPayment,
Yeah,
and I believe this that in North America this is super important. Everybody is paying with credit cards.
yeah. eBiz charge. I think it's Century Business Solutions, CBS. eBiz charge is a good way to do it too. iPayment involves already having the gateway. If you already have a gateway like Moneris and it works great, then iPayment I use it a lot, but I'm kind of like 50-50 now with iPayment and eBiz charge because eBiz charge they act as the gateway as well. So they're the gateway, the merchant account, they do everything. They give you the app, the add-on basically for free, and you just have to sign the contract. They want your the processing fees, right? I don't blame SAP for not having that because if they did one North American specific credit card processing feature, it doesn't necessarily work around the world. So but yeah,
Yeah,
it is
but
something that most people have to
so
add, a lot of people add.
In Acumatica, you will find
Yeah.
this. It's something that is available without any add-ons in Acumatica.
Oh.
Also, the shipping. So we are shipping here by UBS, by FedEx or something.
Yeah.
So we need also to like have a real shipping.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't like use it as an information. I need a real shipping and a real tracking. So I was just interviewing Carl Lewis, by the way, last
Yeah.
week, and he
Oh, cool.
mentioned that. He said that every time we go to SAP Summit, SAP Business One Summit, they say, hey guys, those are the new features that you will find in SAP Business One, and everybody is looking to each other. Who requested this? We didn't
Yeah.
request this.
No.
Why you are not doing what we need? Why you
Yeah.
are doing something that we didn't request? So the shipment or the shipping and the credit card, for
Yeah.
example, is something that is super important here, and nobody. Hey guys, we have a new feature. What is it? It's something that you never ask about.
Like I actually have this on my list of to do like a short on, but like they added a button at the top of the screen that like hides the icon row. And I'm like, who in the SAP client, who requested this? I just want to take my laptop and just throw it in the ocean. Like, who is asking for these things? Like, for shipping, I can understand because it's regional, right? That's what I was saying about the credit cards. It's really kind of regional, but we've used Process Weaver, and it's like Process Weaver, we can't use it anymore. It's just like it's really tough to use Process Weaver. But there's like what ShipStation, and there's a few other things. Like I think there are big gaps where there can be like if an add-on there's a gap where there could be like a WMS add-on that really dominates. I think for me, credit cards are more or less good because iPayment's good, and eBiz charge, those are good both for North America and Canada. But WMS and point of sale, I think those are two kind of big gaps, and the point of sale could include the credit card portion. But
Yeah, but
WMS with shipping,
yeah,
that's a big
but
gap.
the next question is about the cloud. So, what advice would you give to companies that are like doing transition to the cloud with SAP Business One? What are the biggest challenges they might face?
So if like inevitably most companies are going to move to the cloud now, so I think, how you work with SAP Business One in the cloud is, as long as you're using some Azure RD Web setup, I would say the two biggest things that you have to cover is it's printing. So printing is going to be a problem. Like you need some sort of solution that allows you to print and get your printing routed to the right printer, especially if you have like a larger organization. You're going to need something like more than a VPN tunnel or some print solution that helps with that. I know we use some sort of third party print solution to help. We don't just use the default. I just don't know off the top of my head what the name of it is. So printing is going to be something that you really want to test. And files, moving your files between the cloud and your desktop. So something people are using is like the what's it called, OneDrive, like OneDrive or Google Drive. If your users are really not that comfortable with moving files and you do attach a lot of attachments to your SAP, then that's going to be kind of a difficult thing for them to understand. And then emailing can be annoying if you let it be annoying. So same with the files. If you use an Outlook adjacent type of like default SAP emailing system, it's annoying. You have to have Office 365 in the cloud because it has to be in proximity to the SAP Business One client. What I would say is it's worth really looking at B1 Up Print and Delivery, because with B1 Up Print and Delivery, you can just connect your Outlook, your whole Exchange to SAP, and then you can have B1 Up compose those templates. And like, again, dear Mike, please find attached invoice 1234. And then the file name is, invoice1234.pdf. It just cleans up all that stuff, and then it will send it directly out through Exchange, where even if you're running Outlook locally, sending it through Exchange, it will immediately show in your sent box on your local machine with the file if you want to. So some of the things I do too is with print and delivery, I can say, if you want that PDF locally, I'll just put a button, email to myself, and then it'll just compose it, and then it'll send it to your inbox just so you can have that PDF. So you don't have to do the PDF, put it on the desktop, put it in your Google Drive, or copy and paste it through a full desktop. Maybe the user isn't using a full desktop. Maybe they're using an RD Web, kind of like the old Citrix web app publishing. So they don't necessarily have a full desktop. So then they don't really know where it's going. So I think those are the things that, especially if your users are not that tech savvy, files, email, how are you going to send your emails through the cloud? And then, of course, printing. Printing is always annoying, right?
Perfect. So the next question is about the SDK. How
Okay.
can I use Business One SDK to develop custom add-ons or integrations?
Okay, so don't.
Don't.
um,
Yeah,
uh,
agree.
Okay, so this SDK, like SDK is, and I'm not a trained developer, and I try my hardest to avoid using a fully custom, like, making custom add-on that's installed. It's super duper unnecessary generally. If you need to do something that's like really something that's not even possible within the scope of SAP Business One, or something that's like very custom, maybe, but I have never seen something that I have not been able to recreate or build in B1 Up using B1 Up. And people might, if it's something that's so different, you maybe need, again, like a CRM solution that's separate, that's integrated. But generally, I can make a UDO that's its own form. Like if you can use a UDO and then use item placement with B1 Up, and then you use a macro setup, you can really effectively make your own documents or make your own master data, which is usually what people want to store. And then part of B1 Up, you can run C# and VB.NET code snippets directly. So just lately, I have been able to learn how to use the SDK. With the SDK exists the SDK is kind of a term just for like ways that you're going to integrate, ways that you're going to affect SAP Business One. So the DI API, the UI API, the service layer, B1IF, and all that stuff kind of sort of falls in the SDK. So B1 Up, you can literally just write your own C# code, it seems not that accessible. But once you write that, I can literally go through the DI API and affect system fields like almost in the same way I can do formatted searches, almost in the same way I can do SQL updates. I can do so many different things. So using B1 Up, I can actually build the functions I need to build. And I've built some crazy stuff. Like I've built several automatic invoicing systems. So the WMS spits out a delivery. My system then checks it and copies it from a delivery to an invoice, even if there's batches, and then it will apply the down payment, and then B1 Up print and delivery actually just emails out the invoice. So I have a customer that like they've barely ever done any invoices, and I've just used SDK, C Sharp DI API stuff and built that using B1 Up. I don't have to compile it, make it into an add-on, install it on all the clients. I don't have to do that, but I can use the power of that. And the other thing that I've done too is some VB.NET directly through Excel. So another aspect of the SDK is you can just use Excel. I've pulled data out, populated grids. You can edit the grid, and then you can actually just send it back to SAP directly through VB.NET script. And technically that is like part of what the SDK is. It uses all the same objects and stuff, but you don't need to make an add-on. I think that the downfall of the add-ons is just maintaining them. Like every major version, every patch or major version, they change like the DLLs that are required. When you go to do an upgrade, it's now a big failure factor. Like if I go to upgrade, now I have to go back to the developer like the guy who literally made the original code, get them to rebuild it. It never works the first time. You have to install it on all the clients and have that happen. Whereas with B1 Up, it like the code just exists. And when you do the upgrade with B1 Up, I don't worry about it. It just goes with it. You don't have to. And the other thing is sometimes the partners will make you pay maintenance on your own custom SDK add-on. So you might as well get B1 Up, have it all integrated in the same thing. Almost anything you can do can be done in there, and you can still use the DI API calls directly. Don't use custom add-ons. I have not had to.
Okay. So, regarding the customization, so do you have any like maximum limit for the customizations in SAP Business One?
The thing that will throw you off the most is having to make your own custom forms. And that's the one thing that I don't know how to do with One Up. So that's the thing. What you end up doing is you use a UDO, so user defined object, which is a combination of UDTs. So you can make a document type user defined table and then a document row type user defined table, combine it into your own user defined object using the UDO under the tools menu. And then that basically becomes your form, right? So what are the things that people normally want to do? They either want to make a custom document style or a custom master data. And you can make master data as well using the UDOs. So like with an add-on, you can make exactly where you want the buttons to go and all those things and you can just use the item placement tools with SAP. And so you can't just make a form. You have to rely on the UDOs, but I've used the UDOs a lot and customized them heavily. And I guess there's certain visual things maybe you could include, like graphing and stuff, but then I just end up using the B1 Up dashboards for it if I need to visualize something. So I feel like if you need to, I've done quite a few complicated things where, you pull up a form, you have some data, and then you can kind of click like process this data and it'll go through and it'll do all the updates in the background just using the C sharp calls. I haven't run into something where I couldn't really handle it, but again, making a manual form if you don't know how to use the UDOs would be one drawback of not having your own custom add-on. But it's not necessary
Okay.
generally.
Okay. So, let's move to the next question. So, SAP HANA or SQL?
I'm definitely a 32-bit SQL person. I think I've used HANA extensively. I can write basically effectively the same stuff in both systems. Again, I'm not trying to get on SAP's bad side and like talk really bad about it, but I don't really think HANA is faster. People can argue with me, but like transactionally, I don't think it's like as fast as it's supposed to be, or as fast as they kind of make you think it is, and that's transactionally. So like when you're going to data, when you're going to just update a business partner master data, when you're going to do those things, sometimes it's just SQL just feels snappier. And you can't beat SQL Management Studio. Like working in SQL Management Studio is just beautiful. It's so easy. There's so many tools. It's just like if I work a long time in HANA and I have to like edit the stored procedures and copy the thing, there's just a few things that HANA does that's kind of annoying. And then it's not as supported as SQL. I think just people who understand SQL, like there's a lot more of them. I've been fortunate enough to be more of a functional consultant. In the last many years, we have a good team of IT people at Forgestic, so they will do the install. I don't understand Linux well enough, but with SQL, I can basically do almost anything I need to and just do it all through the Windows platform. I don't need to kind of try to interface with the Linux, and maybe that's just some gap that I need to work on. But I think people understand SQL. It's just easy. It's just a little easier to understand. It's easier to troubleshoot. So as I would say, as
Okay. So cloud versus on-prem.
I I really like the I'm just I guess when I started I like being able to like connect through the local through the local system and just like go through the network and just connect directly to the machine, go on to B1 share, and it's so fast. Like I just think part of the thing that kills users excitement about something is waiting, right? So with on-premise, I'd say like the on-premise for the speed when I don't have to maintain the servers and I don't really care about maintaining the servers, and the customer has like a good IT team. I think that's really nice, but it's not really the reality now. So I find for me, because I'm usually working on the server, it's usually fast enough. But I guess like if I had to have a preference, it's unrealistic these days. But I would say a blazing fast on-premise SQL installation where I'm like wired into the server is like the ultimate for me.
Yeah.
Old
So
school.
I never thought that you will choose this SQL
Yeah.
than the on-prem.
SQL is just so easy to integrate with too. Like it has, like there are so many things that just connect to it, right? It's been around for so long. SQL Server is just it's used by so many people. Like it's as opposed to like
But
SAP's HANA.
SAP, I believe one of the most common things that I heard that SAP will put more features on the HANA. Is this real?
It's true, and I think they were trying to use that to railroad people out of going with SQL, but they've gone back on the majority of those limitations. So I think that in the beginning they had a bunch of vaporware, like frankly just crap. Like who we were talking about, like features nobody asked for. They had a bunch of stuff that like people didn't really ask for, like advanced available to promise, where you can like micromanage the delivery dates and that stuff, and like that's had its bugs and errors. Like I don't know anybody that's even using that, but that's one of the things that was supposed to be HANA only. The HANA dashboards, which again, what's the point? You should use B1 Up dashboards. B1 Up dashboards directly connect to SQL, and like you can connect to multiple SQLs. I've even connected the B1 Up dashboards to non-SAP systems to visualize data from systems that are being integrated with. So I think they've got, and the service layer. I think the service layer was the last thing that was meaningfully held back from being integrated with the SQL version. And I believe I haven't used I'm only getting into the service layer now, but I believe now it's going to be fully available to the SQL version. So, if you have like some of the applications, I don't like some of the mobile applications that they've done were supposed to be HANA specific, but they're not really usable anyway. So I think the majority of the things they were trying to hold over the heads of the SQL people were just things that you can kind of show in a demo, but nobody really used, and they've fallen away mostly. That's my impression of it.
Okay, so moving to the next question. Top things you can't live without as a consultant.
Okay, so this was like I was thinking this like the GQ thing. They got like Conor McGregor or whatever, like top things they can't live without. So I thought about this a little bit before. Um,
Chat GPT.
I don't use it. That's funny. I got into it for a little bit when I was writing some of the C sharp stuff, and I'm like, it just like it's not giving me. It maybe helped me go in the right direction, but it didn't. Like people are like, it just wrote the code for me. I'm like, it doesn't. But
Yeah,
so
and the last version is stupid. The last,
Stu,
the
yeah,
4 O
yeah,
version is very, very, very bad. I hate it.
really. Hmm.
Yeah, it's lazy. It's
Oh.
stupid. You no, no, no. I
Hmm.
don't know what happened, but I was just kidding with you. I know that you are
No,
not a Chat GPT
yeah.
guy.
I'm trying to embrace it, right? Like I'm trying to embrace. I mean, we had our conversations about it before. I'm trying to embrace it where I can, but no, it's not my it's not my top 10 list. So Outlook again,
Okay.
maybe you call me old school. Everything I do on a day to day, like I just use Outlook. I like it. I work in it extensively. It basically is my kind of like keeps me organized. Snagit, if you've seen emails from me or had documentation from me, Snagit, the screen capture tool, I use it multiple times a day. That's,
Yeah.
I think, indispensable as a consultant. It's worth paying for it to get it. That's Snagit by, I think, TechSmith is the name of the company. Just super good. I use the SAP Business One forums. I can't live without those. I mean, I search them all the time. I try to add what I can add. Sometimes I go through periods of time where I add a lot, and sometimes I'm not adding a lot. But it always, regardless of like people whether they give like super good answers, it kind of like helps me with like tips on the direction I should go. And I guess that's how I've mostly used Chat GPT lately. Is it like it doesn't write the code for me, or the forum doesn't write the code for me, but it gives me like, oh, these are the tables I can look at, or here's a framework of what I can look at, and I can take that. I use the SDK guide all the time, even just for doing DTW stuff. But once you start to get into C sharp, you spend a lot of time with the SDK guide. It gives you a lot of, it helps you to understand the different properties and dimensions of the SAP fields and like why you can't edit them or how you can affect them. Because sometimes you think like, oh, I should be able to change this or I should be able to do that. But the SDK help guide really helps. And then I have my laptop, obviously, a piece of paper for taking notes. I'm just like I just love notes. I personally like I type, but a lot of like I do type more. But I feel people on like a voice call. It's like clickety clackety, and I don't have a super like. It's kind of like clickety clackety. So I think the notepad kind of like I write the notes.
Yeah.
Um, Coffee is really essential. I'm moderately a stimulant junkie, I guess. Like I just like coffee. Occasionally I have
Okay.
I like Monster energy drinks. I'm not trying to do it every day. And then as a consultant, I can't live without bike rides. I
Yeah.
just like to like get out of my office. I happen to be fortunate. I'm fortunate enough to live. I live in Canada, so like I have like a forest trail where I can go get
Yeah.
outside, whatever exercise you prefer, like just walking, just like get out of your office. But in my case, exercise and bike ride, it's an essential as a consultant.
Yeah. What is your favorite coffee?
I'm like people will ask like wine, beer, coffee, food. I'm not like I just don't. I'm not a taster. I don't.
Okay.
I'm not a foodie. I don't care. Like I don't. I'm just not picky. If you gave me a certain different things, like I'll appreciate like a nice restaurant that experience. But I just really there's like a big range of taste. So honestly, like I just have President's Choice, which is like just a bargain brand here, or I get McDonald's coffee all the time. And
Tim Hortons.
yeah, I don't. So Tim Hortons is too hot. Like
Yeah.
I gotta wait like an hour. I just want like like lukewarm
Yeah.
like water, and I just put cream. I just put cream in it.
Yeah.
But I'm not picky. I have tried. I have all the things. I have like a hand grinder. I have the AeroPress. My wife got me like a subscription to this like small bean roasting subscription for a while, and it's great. But at the end of the day, yeah, I'm a simple guy, so
Yeah.
probably just McDonald's.
The AeroPress for it's espresso. It's doing
Yeah,
espresso.
yeah.
So you love espresso too.
Well, I don't. I do. I like anything that's coffee,
Coffee.
but
Yeah.
again, I had
Yeah.
like, so I would go up and I literally would like grind. I literally have the like hand grinder, like, and then I put it in the AeroPress. If you've used it, it's, you have to flip it upside down and then
Mm,
press it out, and you have to go at like 30 seconds of pressing, right? I do, absolutely, I enjoy it, but if I think like McDonald's, like it's nice because I work at home, so if I'm gonna go to McDonald's, I could just go through the drive-through, get a McDonald's coffee, and I
yeah.
like get out of the house. I see the outside world. I interact with another human. Yeah, and then so the experience of like getting out and getting the coffee, and then I just enjoy it. Maybe because I didn't make it. I like cafes and stuff too, but yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not that picky, but I've
Okay.
tried it all.
Yeah.
French press. I just use a machine these days, just a regular machine. What about
Yeah.
you? Do you
Yeah,
coffee? Are you a coffee person?
I'm a coffee guy. I love
Uh,
the any dark roast
okay.
coffee. I love the dark roast.
Okay.
I drink the espresso for sure. I love
Great.
espresso. In Tim Hortons, I choose the dark roast.
Uh,
I'm not a coffee with milk or sugar guy. I
mm,
just drink it black coffee or
okay.
espresso. That's it. I and there is a dark roast coffee in Casco. I don't remember its name, but I love it with Ninja machine.
Yeah, my machine's a Ninja too. Yeah, so that's funny. I wonder if we have the same Ninja machine. I should send you the link and
Yeah,
machine bros.
I will send to you the photo. So the next question is a deep one. What is the role of ego in consulting?
Yes, and like I forgot to mention, you've had so many really cool guests on your podcast. In particular, Richard Duffy. Richard Duffy mentioned the clip about ego, and lately I have been struggling, not struggling, but lately I've been thinking about it more. And I think I think especially like as you get some experience under your belt, it's just something you need to be aware of. Just egos. I'm thinking of it. I think Richard Duffy was talking about it in terms of the consulting. And when we talked about this before, you were talking about it in terms of the client. And I think both of them are good perspectives to keep in your mind as you're being a consultant. Talking about it for myself, sometimes I'm like every day I'm repeating the same stuff, and I'm like, do it this way, do it that. And then like at a certain point, like people start, if people ask you questions, you're just like, this just do it. Just listen to me. Like don't question what I'm doing. But you have to take that, again, to make the customer love you, back to that question, you have to take the time to listen to them. And like you're saying about listening, it's very important. So part of being a good consultant is really listening, and part of listening is putting your ego to the side. And the ego, obviously if people are not that familiar with it, it's just like your sense of you being the best, right? So you have to kind of say, you have to set that aside and say, especially like, this person doesn't necessarily know me, and if I'm like a Battleship Cobra, you ever seen my videos? And it's like, I try never to get involved in that and I'm just like a regular person. I'm not, kind of fight back against that. So I have to say, okay, they don't know me. Maybe they're a new customer, and I have to demonstrate through listening that I have the best solution. It's a process of building rapport. And it's not that they're saying, "Oh, your ideas aren't good." They can ask you questions just as much as you can ask them questions, right? And that's a process of you learning. And I think like I've definitely had some situations where just like I'm busy and I'm just like, just do what I'm saying. Why are you questioning these things? And I had to like repeat myself. So I think that's something on the consultant side that you need to just really be aware of and not let it get a hold, like not let it kind of come forefront to your mind. And then from the customer standpoint too, seeing that sometimes they'll argue with you maybe in a group setting just because they're trying to express their ego on you. And I've had some situations where I'm like, I'm proud of myself that I did not try to argue with that person. I stayed calm and I made my point in a clear way, and I really listened. I really tried to demonstrate through like an empathetic method that I have the best solution, not being like, you should do it this way because my name's Mike, and those are the things that I think, especially as you get deeper into your career. You just have to be a professional, be empathetic. It's hard for me. It's harder for me to be empathetic, but be empathetic and really listen, and that will kind of avoid any of the pitfalls with having your ego come out.
So
How do
there
you
is
deal with it? You're not, maybe I'm wrong, but you
no,
don't
no,
seem like an ego driven person. I mean, you're a kind person. Have you ever struggled with it, or
no,
you
for
ever
sure.
been frustrated?
Sometimes you feel like at some point when you are sitting down with someone who don't know or don't have this knowledge,
Mhm,
because for them it's the first time to deal with the SAP solution or the SAP
mhm,
Business One. Sometimes you have this feeling, yeah, yeah. Hey guys, come here to learn from me. You will learn something today. Sometimes this feeling comes, but people are smart.
mhm,
When you do that, or even if this is your intention while you are coming to them at this session and you
mhm,
have, hey guys, you will learn a lot today, they will feel it and they will treat you in a way that makes you feel angry because people are
mhm,
smart. But one time something happened with me. It was weird thing. I was sitting down with a customer, and this customer, it was a good implementation and it was a good go live for them and everything was perfect. But the owner called me over the phone and say, "Hey, I want to meet you today. I have
mhm.
a couple of questions." I said, "Yes, sure.
Okay. Mhm,
I will come today and meet you." Then after I show up and sitting down with him, he just start opening SAP Business One, and every single window in SAP Business One, he open it and say, "What is that? What this should do? What is that
yeah.
button? What is this will do? What is that?" For me, it was, and he was trying to insult me.
Mhm,
So I told him clear, "Hey man, I don't know everything in the solution." He said, "Yeah,
mhm,
you don't know? You're not an SAP consultant." I said, "Yeah, I am.
mhm.
But as you mentioned before, I know how to give you the answer. I know the ways to give you the answer, but it's not that way." Oh, do you have any weird situation like that?
Yeah, I'm when as you were explaining that, I've been in that situation a lot. And honestly, again, you have to think like if you are crazy enough to start and take the risk of running your own business, a lot of those people they're very confident, but it also takes an ego to lock out the doubt, right? Those types of people can be pretty disagreeable people, right? And I consider myself naturally more disagreeable, but I've been in this exact situation, right? And you're kind of thinking like this owner didn't attend any of the training sessions. They didn't do anything. They haven't talked through any of the blueprinting. They literally, that's always a red flag to me when the owner is like, "I'll figure it out later. I'll figure it out later," right? And then inevitably they have people reporting to them complaining about specific modules, and they only hear the complaints. They don't have that understanding or the buy-in of the vision of where the system is supposed to go. So they get kind of frustrated, and then right, they're busy, and then you get put in that situation. So I have definitely been put in that exact same situation. Like, what about this? What about that? I don't think people have really insulted me to my face. They probably have. And I've definitely felt that way. Oh, I should know. But the solution is big. I mean, it's not the biggest solution, but even today, I don't know every detail of every inch of every form, right? So that's really funny. I
Yeah.
think it takes an experienced like consultant, and a lot of times I've been caught where I didn't have answers to some of the questions that they were asking. But like you're saying, and like I said before, I don't know, but I answer what I can answer. And when I was junior, it was more takeaways than it was direct answers. I think now I would of course have more answers than I have takeaways. But yeah, being able to go through that and not getting discouraged and thinking like, hey, this system, I'm going to learn about it and I'm going to come back. I think that a lot of the times those situations have ended up I ended up having loyal clients, and I'm thinking of one that was just like that, and now very loyal client. We have a good
Yeah,
relationship.
I will tell you what happened later. So this
Yeah,
customer, I was working for a company as a
yeah,
consultant. Then this customer called me and say, "Hey, I want to meet you today because we have some stuff to discuss." Okay. Then I went to the office and he sat down with me and say, "Hey, do you want to work for us?" Then I say, "What that mean?" So he asked me, what is your hourly rate? So I say, I will give him a very big number just because I will not do that. Then I said, like, this number. So I say, okay, we can do that.
No.
So I told him, but I can't work for you because I am working with my company and this is
Mm,
not like ethical. So he told me, man, this is life and life is not fair and this is an opportunity for you.
mhm,
So anyway, what happens that he knows that I'm a good consultant even when he tries to insult me.
mhm,
Then later he called me and say, hey, we need you to work for us
mm,
at any number. But I refused to do that. And at that time, I was leaving my company. I was
mm,
leaving them, but even I was leaving them and I didn't do that. He also said, we can do this like freelancing stuff. But I said,
mhm,
no, I can do that. You should work with them.
yeah,
And this is also, I believe, this is the ethical way that every consultant, because sometimes it happens and the customer try to hunt the consultants. It happens
mhm,
a lot. I saw
yeah,
this a lot. So I believe that consultants should take care of that because it's not ethical. Because this partner worked hard to
mhm,
acquire this project. There is a sales team, there is a marketing team, there is a
mhm,
whole like a full whole process happened
yeah.
before they acquire this project. Then after they start getting the fruit of this customer, you like go and it's not ethical.
Well, it's also boring too, honestly, like, because if you're a consultant, working with
Mm,
I don't know from your
yeah,
standpoint, but so yeah, I agree. Like having integrity is important too, but I think it's interesting to relate the ego, like you said, this person challenged you. They try to put you in a bad position, right? Just to see, basically, kind of sort of to test you. And I think that the people I've had disagreements with, I end up having better relationships with because they
correct.
know that if I have a problem, I will show a little bit of anger or frustration, and I will say that. I'm not just like, okay, everything's super good and this is the answer. Like I feel like that's authenticity in a way where without discord you cannot have accord. So that process of challenging, I think, was to just test you. And like you said, it was a test kind of to see how you would do. And then it bred like a form of respect. And
Yeah.
I applaud the integrity of not wanting to do that. But I have actually gotten very frustrated. I have left and gone to a single customer. And I'm this naturally a consultant, I ended up being kind of bored just with just one single customer. I enjoy the variety of a lot, but that's kind of a side note there. You don't really want to absorb it, but weather the storm kind of, you want to kind of let them vent, I feel like is what you're saying, right? You
Yeah,
want to let
exactly.
them get their let them vent to you. And then, yeah, like you said, don't take it personally.
Yeah. So the next question, a very deep one also. What do you need to do to be a great consultant, not just a good one?
Yeah. So if you want to be, so I always think like, are you kind of, there's two types of people in SAP Business One world. I think there are, like, no offense to support people, but there's kind of like a support level person and usually a person who's starting, and then there's a consultant. So a lot of the times they're both called the same thing. The difference between being on like a support team, generally they're not as confident in their skills. So they kind of just reply to whatever the customer wants, right? They just, oh, I want this. And you're like, okay, okay, how do I do that? Oh, like, I just do that. Whereas I was kind of explaining before, like a consultant takes that step back, perhaps even out of the system, and looks at the full spectrum of what the solutions could be, including your experience from business process, your experience from just everything, other solutions, like I've been mentioning, other CRM solutions, like really looking at solving that problem, in really solving the problem where it adds a lot of value. So I think the way that you can get there is loving the topic. Like, I love systems, not just SAP. I just love seeing systems flow, like I love workflow charts. I love like seeing like the order comes in, it goes through and it processes through. Like I've always been obsessed with like games where it's like about building the processes. I love not just using the software and being involved in the software. I love how the supporting aspects around it. What's printed? Where's the paperwork go? How far does the cart have to go from the printer? Where's the scanning? Where are the things? Like I'm just obsessed about that efficiency in business. A big chunk of that is SAP Business One for me, and that's the solution that I like to use. But having that love of the topic, and I love SAP Business One, and I love the surrounding topic. So that's one of the things. And being curious about all of those different things, ask questions about the customer, listen to the customer. That will give you a good base and it'll kind of take you from your support to your consulting roles where you're not just doing a support, you're not just answering directly, oh, I need to make this report or oh, I need to add this column. You're now being able to have have the confidence that you love and you've seen these scenarios before and you can say, you know what, for you this would be great, right? That's where you start to get to distinguish yourself from just being a support person. And then, so the result of that is giving solid answers. And again, relating back to getting customers to love you, giving solid answers that work well for them. And relating back to other things I've said too, is if you don't know, find that answer through curiosity. Come back and incorporate that solution. Say, hey, I've found some new information. Like, I'm not afraid to say I made a mistake. I'm not afraid to say I went and I tested this and it didn't work. We need something that works. Let's workflow this too. You're up there on the whiteboard. What do we do first? I've had my favorite sessions are going through blueprinting or going through a reorganization of a process and really working with the stakeholders in that and having both inside and outside the system and how is this really going to work day to day. I just love seeing that. And that, I think that edge is what makes you kind of great versus like you'll have people who are good who can make the changes, but the great distinguishes you by the passion that you bring to it with your understanding of the topic and the surrounding topics, giving those answers. And if you don't have the answers, finding them.
Yeah. So, in my opinion, also be proactive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't be active. So, if you want to be great, be proactive. So,
Yeah.
before the issue happened, before, yeah, you are ready. You are ready.
Yeah.
You have this mentality. I believe that
Yeah.
proactive people have this edge those days.
Yeah, if I
So,
see something, I just like have to take it. Like sometimes I'll do like don't tell for justice. Sometimes I'll do billable work if I see like something that's if I see something that I know is going to be an issue down the road, like in a report or like a scenario I didn't originally see, and I have to spend an extra half an hour or something, I will do that because,
yeah.
like you're saying, proactively, I'm like, ooh, I just found that if this scenario happens, the number is going to be off by a little bit, and I just can't leave it, right? So in some
Mm.
cases I will bill it obviously, but if it's something little that's like it's just stuck in my head and I need to make it perfect, I will need to do that. So
Yeah.
yeah, being proactive is a great
So
point too.
so we are hosting with the Richard Duffy, by the way.
Yeah.
So his company SMB Cloud Solutions is the
Hmm.
company that we are hosting our services on. So this guy, Richard Duffy, he's unbelievable.
He's a legend to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Why?
can't I would like to meet him. I've never met him.
Yeah, I will tell you what happened. So we have a
I
trade
think I saw.
show that
Yeah.
we attended last week. It's a manufacturing
Mm.
trade show, so we wanted to use Beyaz for the Boyum B1, but it ended up with Netronics. Netronics is a
Okay.
different solution. It's Boyum solution. It's manufacturing,
Mm.
but it's a lighter or a simple version of Bayes. It's not Bayes, but it's a production, or it can handle production and work orders and
Mm.
inspection, but in like a simple way. Anyway,
Okay.
what happened that I wanted to use this on our demo database, and I contacted Boyum,
Mm.
and Boyum said, "Yeah, here is the 7 steps that you will do to make this working." And as you mentioned, also it was 7 steps that missing a lot of stuff. But anyway, we did the 7 steps. We did
Written
the
by a document,
yeah,
written by a developer.
we did the 7 steps, and it was not working. So I was traveling to the trade show. It's 3 hours from here, and I was driving, and the show should be the next day, and I was talking to Richard Duffy. Hey, it didn't work, so he say, okay, I will take care of it. So I was like, why he will do that? It's not an issue that he it's not related to his services. It's an add-on that I'm using for Boyum. So anyway, what happened that he was texting me, hey, I'm in a meeting with Boyum guys. Hey, there was an issue and we fixed it.
Wow.
Hey, we and I was like, my God, why he's doing that? Then he said, I reached out to Boehm in Denmark, the
Wow.
main office, and this should be unfortunately ready next Wednesday. So I was like, this is the kind of person that I want to work with. Someone like Richard is supporting you. So thank you, Richard Duffy. Thank you so much. I am very lucky working with you. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I mean, he's a legend. Just like when I started, legend. I've only heard good things. I haven't, like I said, I haven't met him, but that's the type of like little, like probably little to him, but giant to everybody else. And it just shows like an abundance kind of mindset, like rising tide raises all ships. And yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah,
That's amazing. Yeah. Thanks,
yeah.
Richard Duffy, for being part of the community. Like it's a
Yeah. So the next question: what is your Hogwarts house, and do you identify with it?
So that's the back to the wizard thing. That just worked out good. But yeah, so
You are a Harry Potter.
I love the books. I read the books quite a while ago. I put them, it'd be in my probably my top 10 of fiction books,
Okay.
and just really cool. I mean, people haven't checked them out. Well, everybody has. If you're a reader, it just drew me in. It's incredible. Definitely read the books. So if people that don't know, at a certain point when wizards go to Hogwarts, they get the sorting hat, and there was like the official Hogwarts, like you could go and do the web app of like the sorting hat, right? And it puts you into one of the four houses. And so I did the thing, and at the time, like I got the Slytherin house, which is like Draco Malfoy and the Malfoy side. It's like they can be seen in a way as bad guys,
Okay.
so, it's like about ambition, and they don't necessarily follow the rules, and they're kind of the like get things done by any means people, but not all of it's more of like the dark side in some aspects. So, you have like the Gryffindors and Hufflepuffs and Ravenclaw and all that. So they're like each house has its own kind of ethos and its own way of approaching problems and all that stuff. So the thing, I've kind of embraced the like Slytherin thing. I think like I don't want to break the rules, but what do they say? Know the rules like a lawyer so you can break them like an artist. I think that's what Pablo is that how you, is that that's paraphrasing, but I think like in some cases you have to be able to break out of that. You have to think outside the box, right? And I think that being creative and ambitious is something, or sometimes you have to take chances. Sometimes I've done updates to systems, to system fields or random stuff where I'm like, I just need to find a solution here, not to put customer data in jeopardy or anything. But yeah, I think I do. I think Slytherin fits for me, and I think it's a really cool book if people haven't checked it out. Do the sorting hat thing if you haven't read it, and if you have the time, do it and do the sorting hat test and see where you fall and if you align with it.
I will do because I didn't read the book. I didn't watch the movie too, but I
Yeah,
know that a lot of people said that the book is better than the movie. I don't know why, but I heard this a lot because maybe when you read the book, you imagine the things. You are the producer of the movie. You are like
yeah.
the director. You are everyone. So you are like doing whatever you need in your. But when you watch the movie, it's a different perspective from a different person who see the book in a different way. So
Yeah,
I will
I,
read the
I
book first.
I have a weird perspective on that. I don't watch movies of books that I like. I don't watch any movies or TV basically at all, anyways. And but from like my standpoint, like books my favorite book of all time is Ender's Game. I will never watch the movie. I refuse. It's my favorite book. I don't want to have somebody else's bad interpretation of this book. I've read it probably 20 times.
Oh my god.
Ender's Game.
Andrew's Game.
But
What that book is about?
without, let's see, how do I not give it away? It's about
It's a fiction, also fiction.
fiction, yeah, and
Okay.
this is a fiction book. It's not a super long book. I'm trying to think of how I can describe it without giving anything away. Basically, it's about like a child prodigy who has to navigate. It's like you have to read it. It's a space. It's a sci-fi book, but it's not really about the sci-fi. It really is a psychological. It really transcends being sci-fi, although the topic is sci-fi. I'm not gonna get.
I will read it. I will read it.
Yeah, it's
I
Ender's
like
Game.
fiction. I
Yeah.
like fiction movies.
But don't watch Ender's Game. I mean, if you can, don't
Yeah.
watch the movie. Don't watch the movie at all, I don't think. But reading the book,
Do you have any
it
fiction movies or sci-fi movies that you love?
I don't watch like I don't watch movies
Even Back
or
to the Future?
I've never seen it. So I have like my top like so Dune. Dune is like my second favorite book of all time. Unbelievable book. I'm not gonna watch the movie. People are like, you have to watch the movie. It's like so good. There's like part two or whatever, like all that.
Mm.
I don't want to. I don't like it. Lord of the Rings, it's so good. I think I saw part of the first one. I just can't watch. I just can't watch it. Lord of the Rings is one of the most epic adventures of all time. It's up there in the top 10 books. I just don't want to watch. I don't like sitting there. The process of reading the book, it's just so great to like have a book where you're just like the world is coming to life and you just can't put it down. That's like one of the best. I think that's one of the most joyful things where you find and I have a book right now called Red Rising that I'm reading that's just like I can't put it down. I'm excited every time I pick it up. Like I just that to me is like just a joyful thing. I would hate to go reread like Ender's Game and have like Harrison Ford, I think is one of the characters, I don't even know who, in the Ender's Game movie. And I'm like, I'd hate to think like every time thought of this character that it like morphs into morphs into his face.
Yeah.
Sorry, Hollywood, but yeah, do you have a favorite? Do you have a couple favorite fiction books? Or I mean, some people just aren't readers, but
So I'm most of the fiction and sci-fi stuff. I watch movies. I am not a
okay.
reader on that.
Yeah.
But all the books that I read, it's about business. It's about
Yeah.
productivity.
Yeah.
But I would read the books that you mentioned. I will
Well,
definitely read.
I actually stopped reading Lord of the Rings for like 3 months because I thought Gandalf died. I was so I was
Oh,
so sad. I was
oh,
so ridiculously sad when he fell off the bridge that like I just couldn't read it anymore. I was like, I love this character. I stopped, and my at the time I was in high school. My girlfriend, she didn't tell me. She said later, she's like, I could not tell you that he
oh,
didn't die. Sorry if you haven't read it, but
yeah.
so I totally understand that. Like I said, I think it's something about reading it. I know people watch cinema stuff and they're moved by it, but I don't know, something about a book
Mm.
just gets you. It's more close to your brain. I don't know, but yeah, that's a really good recommendation.
I will start reading. So if you recommend for me something that I start with, which one? Harry Potter or
And I would say Ender's Game. Like,
Ender's
I
Game?
would say
Okay.
Ender's Game. They're not really like related. And Ender's Game, I think, is one that stands alone. It's a human drama, even though it's a sci-fi thing. And I've given,
When you read this book,
yeah. When I probably read it almost every year.
yeah,
Um,
but how old are you when you start reading this book?
Oh, ah,
The first
gosh.
time.
That's a good question. I was like my dad gave it. My dad's like, you would love this book. Read it, and he put it on my in my room, and I never touched it. I never touched it. I probably was 16 or something when I
Okay.
first read it. Um, maybe a little bit older, but yeah, my dad was like, you need to read this, and he was right. And actually it ended up that like I just didn't read at the time. I was just a kid. Was not in the habit of reading. Like I got back into it actually in high school. This sounds crazy. My girlfriend in high school, she was so into books and she wanted me to get into reading so bad that I'm like, I don't want to read, it's boring, like it's boring, and she's like, I will read a book, I will read books to you. And she ended up reading like Lord of the Rings to me, Ender's Game, and that actually got me into my habit of reading. Basically, like that her love of reading kind of
Okay.
stuck with me. So it was weird
Mm,
because I'm a very slow. I don't know if I have like some sort of learning disability visually or something. I'm a slow reader.
yeah.
Like I have to read and reread, and I've had to work consciously on like because I'll just be reading and I'll just zone out, and then I'll be like, oh, I forgot what I was reading, and I'll have to go back and read and reread. So I've gotten much, much, much better. I'm a
Mm,
much stronger reader now, but it takes practice. It really does, and it takes yeah, yeah, maybe 16, and I've read it, yeah, more than 10 times, maybe more than 20 times. And I've listened to the audiobooks. I've listened to the audiobook of Ender's Game too. I think it's just such a good book. I've given it to both men and women. It's not just like technically it's a sci-fi story about war, but it is like I think it transcends. It's just such a good story. It's not about the technology of the sci-fi. It really is just it's a
okay.
cool, fun story.
So, did your son or your kids are reading also, or you didn't?
Yeah. So I try like the thing like my dad did read and it was an example, but I think like I read at night and stuff, so like my son Max didn't necessarily see me reading, but I talk about reading. My wife reads too, so trying to get him to do it more. He's 11, so he's kind of all over the place, but he is a strong reader, and when he gets into a book he has read a lot. And my daughter Lily is 8, and she just is a natural reader, and I'm very grateful for that. She told me at one point, she's like, I'm never going to learn to read. And she wants to be like a nurse. And I'm like, how are you going to be a nurse if you don't know how to read?
Yeah.
But luckily, despite her kind of like I think she was more scared of learning to read. Once she started to be able to pick up things and signs and stuff, she's so curious that she just does it. And if you look at her room, there's just stacks of books now. So I'm super fortunate that I think that's something that a lot of kids don't do. They're just on their computers and stuff all the time, and they don't experience that. And I think it's something that's really cool. Like I said, it's one of the greatest joys is a book that you cannot put down.
Mm,
I think it really is.
yeah. How you build this habit with them? Because I want my kids also to start reading books, and I took them to the library, but they're like, "Oh my god, this is boring." When we will go back home?
Yeah, so I think the thing too about being an adult reader is also you have to know when to quit a book, because that was one of the things that I'm just like I'm kind of sort of obsessive type of person. So like I would need to read every word of every page or something bad is going to happen to me. I don't know. I was like so like once don't finish it, I literally can't look at another book till I'm done this one book, and then so then I would get to a point where like I just can't read it anymore. I'd set it down and then I would walk away from reading for a long time. So I think like part of the thing I've learned from readers is they'll read like many books at once. They'll have, five, six, seven, whatever number of books. And if one is like, sometimes you have to stick with it, but sometimes you can put it down and pick up another book. And when it really hits you, and that has helped me. Some books, they're just not for me, and I just set them down. So I think for my kids, having them find a series or something that they really love, whatever style it was, like my daughter loves fart and poop jokes. Like, so
Yeah.
she loves farting and pooping and like peeing, all that stuff. So she had like this dog man books, right? So she at school she would like see these comics and she loved them. So
Yeah.
she would do it, and then I'd be like, "Oh, the new one came, and like, let's go to chapters." And we get the new Dogman book, and she's like, "Oh, look, it's like he farted. It's like so funny." And she like, hee. I could hear her like hee laughing. And so like my son had more of like he liked Calvin and Hobbes, and starting them with something,
Mm,
starting Lily specifically with something where she thought it was funny and interesting for her to get through the words. And then she got more and more and more of the dog man books, and then there's no more. And now she's reading like young adult, like kind of like not what do you call them, graphic novels, like Babysitters Club type stuff. So she's getting more into like more complex topics with less pictures, right? And my son, he picks up and he reads some things. He could do a bit more, but I think helping them to both see me read, see hear about my enjoyment of reading, and then helping them to find, but like I just recommend them to Max, like try this or look at this, and some of them will stick more, some of them won't stick, and he'll be like, "This is amazing!" Like I just at night I went through like I don't know how many pages, 50 pages or whatever, and he's like, "It's so good, right?" And like that's what I want them to do. But if he's like, "I hate this," I don't want to be like, "You have to finish this before you get your next book." If they abandon the book and then they're excited about another book they hear about, I try to just get it to them. I find libraries kind of hard for some reason. I'm like, why don't you just go and you can kind of take 10 books from 10 different series and then you can see which one you like. But so far that hasn't really worked
Yeah.
that well. But I'm more like I'll just buy it on Kindle, and or I'll get the sample on Kindle and try it. And
So you read
so
you are not reading this in like hard copies. You are reading this on Kindle.
yeah, almost never do I
Ah.
read hard copy books because when I like to read, I read at night. So the biggest thing, like one of the biggest things you could do if you're a reader, and especially not a good reader, is get yourself a Kindle Paperwhite. I had the old Kindle, but the old Kindle, you needed actually to have a light, right? Which is stupid.
Yeah.
So the Paperwhite has like a really light
Mm.
LED or LCD LED backlight. So the words like glow at night, and you can turn them to be very low. So you could be sitting there and just pop it open, boom, on my page, and I could just go through. I can make the words large spacing. I can make I can make the words larger font. I can control how it looks. I have with tiny little writing. I have to like re-go over it and look and look and look. So I make it kind of big with margin, so I can just skim with my eyes. Do next page,
Mm.
do next page. And the nice thing too is I also like audiobooks. So most of the Kindle books, if you buy the Kindle book, you can pay like an extra 3, 5, $6, whatever, and then you can get the audiobook of it too. And the Kindle will sync up to the audiobook. So you can go in the car, listen to
Mm.
some,
And
then you
continue.
come back, and
Mm.
where you left off with the audiobook,
Okay.
now you're back on your Kindle.
Yeah.
So
Smart. Very smart.
yeah, so I think if you have somebody who's into reading, but they're a bit busy, and also you can carry like 10 books in one tiny little book, and
Yeah.
it's like it's
Yeah.
it's it's a it's a gift you can kind of give to yourself. My wife has one, but she just likes hard copies, and I'm like, but then you have to have a book light, and you're always managing the pages, and
Mm.
so I find like as soon as like I'm looking for an excuse to give my current generation Kindle to like Max or something so I can buy the newer one,
Yeah.
but it's not at that point yet. But I have like Ender's Game on there and all that stuff.
Yeah, I am
So
not a big fan with Kindle. I love
no,
also hard copies.
yeah,
I love them. I don't know. I love to have the book. I love that. I don't know, but I never read a book on Kindle or digital books. All the
no,
books that I read was hard
no.
copies.
Have you
So
tried, or you just don't like?
I'm sorry.
Have you tried using a Kindle Paperwhite, or you just don't
So
like the concept of it?
I didn't try it like reading
Mm,
something on it, but I touch it and I saw it and I was like,
mm,
no, I will not do
mm.
that. Definitely, I can't
Okay.
like have a digital. No, I need to touch the book and like
Mm.
have it with my. I don't know, but maybe when I tried.
Well, I've read full books on my phone too, using the Kindle, because that's the other thing too is your Kindle app can sync to your phone, and then if you have a few minutes, you can just start, go through and read it in the same way, and it'll
Mm,
sync up to your Kindle. I find that like the phone that I did it the most on was like it just would hurt my eyes, like especially at night. It's just like too bright.
mm-hmm.
The nice thing about the Kindle is it uses the e-ink display,
Yeah.
right? So it like physically changes the screen. So it really like if you have light, you can just light it with your own lamp, and it looks like the screen, or it looks like a piece of
Real book.
paper.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not the same. But with the paper white, again, I think the newer ones you can choose like warm light or blue light or
How
orange light,
much?
right?
How much is the Kindle now?
I think the new ones, a good one's about $300.
Mm,
I think the one I have was like 180 something in there. So
mm,
I've looked at the new ones, and like they have a lot more like iPad-ish capability, which I don't like.
mm.
But they have like again, real the light is really worth it, and yeah, so you can put it like again, if you're reading at night, you could just pop it open, have it on like two brightness. Extremely, it's dim, but it's perfect for reading at night. And then read it, boop boop. You just touch the corner, and it just every time you touch the corner, it goes to the next page. So I think maybe if you tried it, you would like it. But yeah, my wife is like similar. She just wants to hold it. But I
Mm.
find if I love the book, I will then go buy a physical copy because I also like to just physically see it on the shelf. I like to be reminded of that book. I like to see the cover.
Yeah,
I like to
yeah,
support the author. So every book that I really like I have Dune upstairs, like I love Dune, like Ender's. I would say Ender's Game, and then Dune. Dune, I have a copy. It's not really that used because I never read that physical copy, but I like having it. I like seeing it. So yeah, it's good. Okay.
So, Mike, the last question, and thank you for being with us
Mhm.
today. And we will stall this from Tim first.
Yeah. Rapid fire.
Yeah. So, what advice would you give to a smart driven college student about to enter the real world? And what advice should they ignore?
Yeah. So I'm a big, like I said, big fan of Tim Ferriss. So this is one of the rapid fire questions. I think what I would recommend is for anybody who is just starting to become an influencer. Like as soon as you have a good understanding of your trade, make videos about it, write blog posts about it, share the knowledge that you've learned. Even if you like, I'll look back on some of my old stuff and I'm like, ugh, like I don't know anything. And some of my old videos are like pretty bad. But I mean, I think that's what you can do. But then you'll end up like having some influence over like, like making recommendations or helping people in your industry. And don't worry that there are other people in the industry. Just like if you can demonstrate your passion for what you're doing, like don't do it for a specific reason. Like try and take my approach. Just find, if you watch my other episode, I say like find a question that you can't easily find an answer to and answer it as give away all of your information. Like Tim Ferriss always says, like give away 95% of your information. Just be open. Most people aren't going to like people aren't just going to immediately pick it up and start competing with you. So give away your information, help people. It's going to be helpful to you too. So I always think like becoming an influencer is a new thing. Now with all this social media, before you were just a silent professional or you just worked as a consultant for a partner. But I think it's been massively beneficial to me to share and to have like, again, just let alone just meeting you and everybody else I've met and how many people I've helped or influenced or had messages from and all that stuff. It's been really cool. So I'd say become an influencer in some ways and share your knowledge and don't be afraid to share what you've learned. Give the real, true answers to the things that you come across. And I think the advice they should ignore is like just people will say like just stick with something forever. Like if something feels wrong, then I think you should make a change. Like whether that's like a girlfriend, if it's like a girlfriend and it's like, 7 out of 10 and you're like, she's good, but I'm not sure. Like you don't have you're not going to live for 1,000 years. And while it's good to be loyal and it's good to work things out, I think sometimes you'll have some natural signals in your life and some natural points where you're given an opportunity and you should try to take that opportunity. And so sticking with something for the rest of your life, I think, I've been in the same industry, but I've moved to different, I've had different options and I've done by design, I've done some certain different things. And I found what I love because I took a jump and I left and I got into the SAP world. I, found my wife, I was, just without getting into too much details, like I'm so unbelievably happy. I love her so much, but I knew when it was time maybe to move on. And I was like, hey, this is the previous relationships. They're good, but I want more. And don't be afraid to take that jump. Don't be afraid to take the business opportunity. I was offered it. Like I didn't know what business one was. So you don't have to stick with something forever unless you feel like it's in your heart. But yeah, keep if it feels wrong, you don't have to stick with it and look for an opportunity and a good time to move on to something cool or take a cool opportunity that might be in a different direction.
So you are a person that like follow his feelings?
Yeah, I'm definitely a loyal person, but I'm not going to live forever. I can't my dad, say for example, he did like the same thing. I think he liked what he did. I don't know if I don't know if he loved what he did. It wasn't really something that he discussed. But if I ignore my feelings for too many days in a row, I got to do something about it or say something. I think that's if you're an authentic person, then you have to somehow be loyal to yourself too. You can be loyal to yourself in a way that doesn't hurt other people. And I think that's kind of the point, right? Like sometimes you have to just make a change. Sometimes you have to do something for yourself in order to find what you love. And now, like, I love SAP Business One. I mean, I hope that's clear. So I was with another company, and then again, the sales director just left and was like, "Hey, like, I really like working with you at this company. Like, we're starting this little partnership and with SAP Business One." And I'm like, I don't know what that is. I don't know what an ERP is. I just took a jump and here I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's some questions come to my mind. I'm sorry,
Mhm.
but it's an opportunity to talk to you. So
Yeah,
yeah,
cut it down.
and I love to talk in the human side because we talk a lot in the technical side,
Mhm.
but I feel like Mike Taylor have a lot in the human side because everyone sometimes we have like this downtime. We feel like
Mhm.
we don't need to do anything. I can't do anything. We
Mhm.
feel depressed
Mhm.
when you have this and this happened to you. What do you do to like refresh and come back? What do you do for that when that happens?
Yeah, that's tough. I think, I find it tough to kind of separate like clinical depression, situational depression. So I'm going to speak about this assuming I have occasional situational depression. Like,
Yeah, yeah. I'm
pe-
not
ev- ev-
taking.
ev-
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, everybody does, right? So I'm not trying to say anything against like people that have clinical depression, but from my experience with it is, if you have depression, if you have a form of depression, like, you're not a broken person. There was a TED talk and literally they said, like, you're not a broken machine, like, you're not a machine with a broken part. You're a human that's not getting their needs met in some way.
Okay.
So I try to think like, I'll always, like, it'll hit me and there'll be periods of time where I'm just like, I'm just not motivated. I suck. I suck at everything. I'm fucking up everything. Excuse me. But then, I'm thinking like, have I exercised? Like, have I got out of the house? Like, maybe I've been staring at a computer screen 24/7, 365 for so long. Have I been eating well? Is my local air, my room clean, right? That's like a Jordan Peterson thing, clean your room. But I think it's true. Like, if I'm feeling terrible, I have to kind of step out of myself and say, is this something, like, is my job? And this relates to my advice. Is, say, girlfriend and whatever, it could be a big thing, but like, say it's a 7.5 out of 10 girlfriend. And it's like, it's okay. And I would rather be with her than be lonely. But maybe in your heart, that maybe you would be better off being single, as hard as it could be. And there's a lot of different situations. I think if you look at those things, like, you need to make some sort of change. And I'm not really recommending that you just go dump girlfriends and quit jobs and stuff, but maybe some opportunity or something you can do on the side. Maybe you don't want a girlfriend on the side. Maybe you don't want a second girlfriend on the side, but, like, maybe there's a hobby that would excite you. Maybe you would want to try a class of something. Like, I got into martial arts a long time ago, and that's been something consistent in my life. I haven't done it in a little bit, but I started ice skating like 5 times a week. It just, like, invigorated me. And fundamentally, I love the ERP world. But even though I love it, I still get burned out. And there's aspects of every industry that you don't like. So you have to kind of say, like, is it that I just need a break or I'm burned out? Like, what can I do to help myself? Could I go exercise? Could I go talk to a friend? I work from home, so, like, I try to go, and if I'm stuck, I'll try to have lunch with somebody, or I'm in the summer. I'm fortunate; my kids are home most of the day, and my wife's home, so I can just go and see what they're doing to try to get my head out of maybe some situation that's bringing me down. And I can't. I've definitely had periods of time where it was very difficult, but yeah, I read. I have a OneNote. I used to use Evernote, now I use OneNote, but I have a OneNote, Evernote list of quotes that kind of have a lot of different aspects of my thoughts around a lot of different things. And when I'm at my, like, absolute worst, I will just go and start reading that quote book. And it's like a file, just a long file, and I have them kind of sorted. I have probably thousands now, but I have them kind of
Can
like
you
the
share
ones
it with
that
us?
I will, I can. I don't know if I can do it with one spot. I actually did have one of the versions
Yeah.
shared with the Evernote one, but I'll just make a note. But so if something strikes me that is interesting, or a simple way of understanding something, I put it in the book. I put it in the what I call my quote Bible, actually. The more important I think it is, the higher I put it up. If it's not as important to me, I actually put it further down. So naturally, it's like kind of like a natural Reddit where like the things I don't use as much go down, and the things I like to see more stay at the top. So if I root, like I'll just occasionally I'll reread it, or I'll think of some one of the quotes that I'm thinking. It helps me to organize things. My wife always says like quotes are so boring. That's just somebody saying something obvious, and I'm like, I don't think of it that way. I think of it as like a spell. Like it's worth more than the words to me. Like it again, going back to this wizard magic thing, but I feel like a really good quote is like a magic spell that can change your mind, change your mindset. So sometimes I go in and I read them, and it really helps me to be like changes my perspective. It just shifts me out of it. And if I read and read and read and read, something is going to hit me. Something is going to help me. Something is going to hit me. And then another thing is really just like talking to my wife. Sometimes when I'm stuck only in my head, it's way worse than it actually is. And I heard it, there's a quote that says, when in doubt, zoom out. So when in doubt, zoom out, because you might be looking at like a tiny little piece of something and being really unhappy for days. And if you zoom out, things aren't really not that big of a deal. And I find like talking to my wife in particular, she's awesome. And she always like just bouncing some thoughts off of her. And then she always has like some sort of counter perspective. Like for me, speaking what's in my head out makes different connections. Sometimes I'll just be saying an idea in a meeting or something, and like it was in my head. And then when I say it, I'm like, wow, this is a really good idea. And then it helps me to iterate new ideas. So having somebody, it doesn't have to be a wife or something, but a friend, taking the concern and just speaking it to somebody who will listen will help you to maybe reorganize your thoughts around it, and then maybe make you excited for something else. And I feel like the antidote, kind of my antidote for depression, is really like having something I'm excited about. Like I love like waking up and there's like a project. I'm like, I can't wait. I can't wait to do this. And so finding one of those things that will help me to get back to being excited about what I'm doing. And I guess if there's something you absolutely hate and you don't want to have anything part of your life, like it's again like a bad girlfriend or like a negative thing, like trying ways to keep it out of your life, whether it's a job you need to transition away from or something you've been meaning to do. There's probably something there that your mind is trying to tell you, and finding that is the biggest key. So it could be one of those things, or it could just be that you're burned out. So it's one of those things. So that's kind of my approach to it. I might seem kind of upbeat all the time because I've had so much chocolate and coffee, but like I'm actually like I can be a very, very angry person, and I get pretty down, dark, and little things will just throw me off for days. Like just being mad about something stupid. And the older I get, and then like with kids and stuff, it's harder to put that much energy into staying angry and depressed. I can always find something good with my kids. But yeah, it happens to everyone. Are you doing okay?
Yeah, sure. I like your human side also.
Thanks.
It's beautiful. There is a lot of common things. You're reading, you love to read. Maybe fiction. I love fiction movies,
Hmm.
100%.
Hmm.
Also, as you mentioned, when I feel down, before I blame life, I should see what are the stuffs that I am not taking care of. If I am not eating healthy or if
Hmm.
I'm not eating well, maybe this is something that makes me feel bad. Maybe, as you mentioned, I'm working for like, because I have been working the last year and this year too much.
Yeah.
I didn't take any me time. I'm every day working.
Yeah.
Sundays, Saturdays, every day working
Yeah.
till 8, 9, working, working,
Yeah.
working. But guess what? Maybe I will feel, as you mentioned, burn. I will feel like I'm not good. And then I will blame life. No, blame myself. Because are you exercising? No. Are you
Mhm.
eating healthy? No. Are you giving yourself like a rest or something? No. Are you sleeping
Too,
well? No. So
too much coffee.
yeah, too much coffee, the cortisol hormone, and too much working, too much eating junk foods or some. Then,
Mm,
hey, I'm down. This is if this is not happen, then there is something wrong. This should happen.
Exercise is a productivity tool. Like I go like every day it's sunny-ish and I can ride my bike. I go for like a 20-25 minute bike ride, just a short like rip and have my music in and it just cleans my brain a little bit. I really think that type of thing and other exercise that I do, it makes me more productive.
Mhm.
It does.
Yeah.
And yeah, burning out is a real big thing. I had a massive project a couple months ago. It like nearly destroyed my life, to be honest. I was just like for like months, I would wake up and work till the minute that I was going to sleep every single day, all day, weekend, same thing. Every wait a minute of the day, I barely saw my kids. And like just to finish this project, it was like a massive, massive project. I'm still recovering, still feel like I'm burned out. It was just dumb and I don't know what I could have done differently, but yeah, burnout's horrible. It
Yeah.
really turns you into like a resentful, especially with my wife and kids, like I was really frustrated and snapping at people and like just unhappy. I think you need to find the balance back. Sometimes you have to push hard like you're doing, but
Mm.
even little things like take a walk, go for a walk. Like it's not going to kill you
Yeah.
to do a half an hour walk. Go walk with your wife or walk with a friend. If you can, walk with a podcast. Find something where you're like, oh, or find a book where like
Yeah.
that's at night. I'm very excited to read the book that I'm reading right now, and yeah, it really keeps you fresh. You know?
Yeah. So, Mike, thank you so much
Yeah,
for being with us today. And it's a pleasure. It's an honor all
yeah,
the time
y-
having you.
yeah.
And
Likewise.
I believe that we can do this monthly if you don't mind.
Yeah, yeah. It's fun. I
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that.
Mhm.